me. I do have a soft voice. Okay. I enjoyed that. There's the humor, there's the banter with doubt, and you were quite doubtful.
No, Doubt was speaking in English, but we had no idea what it is he was
But
saying.
you were very doubtful about his advice.
Well, we didn't know what his advice was. Steve was the one who was giving advice, and they were arguing, but we didn't know what Doubt was saying because he really talked with this mumble, you know.
Okay.
But he was speaking in English. That was certain about.
What made you pick that specific section of your book?
No, it was just really, I wanted to highlight like the welcoming. It was this welcoming thing that happened. We'd been traveling for hours. We'd left Mbeya at like at 9 in the morning, and we had all this drama that happened. We first thought we'd go to Zambia, so we went to Nakonde border post, and then we're like, no, let's go to Malawi first. And so we U-turned, but what we stupidly didn't do was we stamped into Zambia, but we didn't stamp out. So now we traveled and we got to Mbilima. And when we got there, this guy said, oh, the immigration officer from Tanzania was like, we said to him, oh yeah, so we forgot to get the stamp and stuff and everything. Mind you, there are 2 South African passports and 1 Kenyan, and none of them need a visa to get into TZ. So this guy said, okay, listen, you're gonna have to, so this guy comes and he says, I said to him, well, this is our problem. And then they say, oh, I have to call my supervisor. The supervisor comes. And the supervisor comes and he looks at us and he says, you are all going to have to pay $100 each for the passport, which was ridiculous. So then I found my inner Nollywood self and I just started crying. And these guys couldn't understand. They were looking at me like, wow. I just started crying. I was like, Mama, your child is very hungry. We've been traveling. Look at your grandchild. And I don't know whether this man was so offended that I called him Baba, because maybe he thought he was, you know. And I referred to my son as his grandchild. He was just like, he looked at me and he was like, and he got out. And then I thought, okay.
The drama didn't work.
The drama didn't work, man. And I cried real tears. And so we're like, okay, what do we do now? And you're a parent and you know the situation. Whenever any drama happens, even when both parents are there, the child always asks you, Mama, what are we going to do? And this is essentially what this little bugger asked me. So I said to him, so I was like, okay, so I have to come up with a solution. And I was just like, we're going to walk to the Malawian border without this bloody stamp. And we're worried, hey? So we walked and we got there. As we were about to cross, the policeman just on the Tanzanian side called us and said, oh yeah, by the way, where are you going? And we're like, flip. We hope he didn't get a phone call that there's some illegals. And we said, oh no, we're going to Malawi. Oh, okay, Safari Jema. Okay. So we crossed over, we got there, and there's a tent at the border. So there's a tent, and it's like, these guys were surprised that anybody was walking to get their passport stamped, you know?
Yeah.
Because people just walk across through the border. It's such a porous border.
Yeah. And you also have traders who don't even have passports. They just have little pieces of papers as travel documents.
Absolutely. And this is the same like with you know, a passport is like a privilege of the middle class, to be honest.
Right.
Because it's the same thing with, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine in Nigeria, And he was telling me about how his aunt trades Nigeria, Togo, Benin, all the way to Ghana. And she speaks French. And she speaks Pidgin. And so he asked her, do you have a passport? And she said, what is a passport?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
She doesn't, you know?
You just have travel documents or just simple IDs.
No, they just go. They just go, you
There
know?
you go.
And so I always think like when they're talking about an African Union passport,
There you go.
these are the people who actually need it.
That's right. So, personal question. How did you feel as a woman dealing with all the different types of immigration officers? Did you encounter any other female immigration officers?
Strangely enough, we did not, at least not those two borders.
Right.
We did not. So it was men, and it was on the Malawi side. The interesting thing with the book buying was the immigration officer was like, "Oh, you've got books," and I said, "Yes, I do," and they didn't talk to me. The moment they found out I was a writer, they're like, "Oh, you've got the books." Then they turned to the husband, you see, and they said, "Oh, so can I buy a book as well?" And then I was like, "Oh, am I invisible? Am I not the writer?"
But you see, now there are two things there. In African society, it's actually showing respect for your partner, right?
Yes.
Yes. So if another man is asking you to get books, he is responding to the African culture of respecting your husband, right? Now,
But should the wife not be respected?
of course, but you see, this is where we have a cross between the culture and the, because society is changing. We're all changing, and the way of things are changing. Both parents have to work, and obviously we feel entitled to also be recognized, which is a right, and it should be there, and we should be recognized for it. But if you're looking at, if you're dealing with people from the rural areas, they're not going to look at that. You know, they're not going to. I'll give you an example. I'm newlywed. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So we've been married for a year now, and so when we moved, my son and I moved to Malawi to join my husband. We were looking for a housekeeper. So he would come home and bring somebody. I mean, we've been through so many housekeepers, it's like changing underwear, you know? So there's this young man he came home with. He's like, oh, let's try this one. And the young man had a lot of confidence. He's been like 20-something, right? He had a lot of confidence. But then when my husband said, you would report to her, kind of, you know, looked at me, looked at him, looked at me. The poor child. He was very confused. So I started walking him around the house and showing him what to do, and he wouldn't respond. He just refused to do what I told him to do. And then we had to let him go because he just refused to work for me.
Okay, but here's a question though.
But just a minute, I'm almost done. But in his mind, he's looking at, but the man is the boss. You see what I mean? He's the boss, and he's the one who makes the decisions. He's the one who fetched me. I am the wife. So I should also be reporting to him. You see that? And there was also a slight fear for him to do what I was telling him what to do, because he would second guess whether to do it or not. So if you're looking at rural areas and the upbringing, and then also the urban areas, you know, it's a little bit different. Yes, the culture is there, but yet they will hold back and take into consideration that, yes, she is the boss. Even though he's the man of the house, she will come, the one that we have now, we're happy with her, she will come to me and instead of my husband. So the reason why I asked that question about immigration officers, I've been there. I've been there. So when you're dealing with immigration officers, they will do that. They will do exactly what you just said. And I asked about the female immigration officers. I have been given a harder time by the female immigration officers. But if I was with a male counterpart or my husband or just another male figure, immediately they'll address the man. So there is the part of, I will get frustrated, but then I also have to remember, we don't know where she's coming from, or we don't know where this person's coming from.
Actually, on the flip side though, I was going to ask you, why was it, so for instance, when we had somebody to come and help us for a very, very, very brief time, because I did write the madams and made an essay, so I always feel terrible about domestic work. Anyway, so when we had the domestic worker report to my husband, and it wasn't because he's the man of the house, it was more because I also wanted him to take part in the domestication, So there is that flip side.
Yes, which is important.
But as you were talking about female immigration officers, we had an interesting one when we were getting out of Malawi into Zambia. And there was a man who insisted, he went in and he said, he's coming from Malawi, from seeing a sick relative, and he's going into Zambia, and he didn't have a voter's card, he didn't have an ID, he didn't have a passport, and this woman immigration officer said to him, that's not good enough. And then he tried to raise her voice, and she's like, do you know who I am? I will not let you cross this one. I'm like, go girl.
She gave her authority.
No, she was like, no,
Yeah.
And I just like, I wanted to applaud, man, like when you want to applaud so bad, you're like,
No, I mean, it's a must. It's a must, and they need to understand the dynamics of it as well. And it's been a culture experience for me coming and living in Malawi and experiencing that. And my husband as well, for the first time, it kind of opened his eyes and he started looking at it from my perspective, because before he never thought about it. I mean, he's a man. I mean, he just got on with it, And then he started seeing it from my perspective. So, we started changing things. It's like, right, so what we'll do now is that you will manage the people who work for us, the salaries and everything, just to show them that there is there. Because different people come from different backgrounds, especially from the rural areas, and we gotta respect their culture. And being urban people, yes, of course, we'll be like, go girl, yes. And we want to bring that equality of treatment and respect, equal respect. But in some communities, it's taboo.
Yeah, no, that's true.
It's taboo, and they take great offense of it. I told my mother, I'm like, oh yeah, my husband does the grocery shopping. She's like, he does what? Why? I said, he loves it. I don't need to go with him. I just give him a list and he gets it. If he doesn't get it right, we go together, I show him, so next time he gets it. And she was just like, no. I said, no, he likes it. He enjoys it. So,
Elizabeth, I think at this time we should read us something.
Yes, we can talk.
Please,
I talk about
forever.
So talking about, yes, I know. Talking about gender issues and cultures and the environment. What I'm going to read for you is an excerpt from the short story I submitted in the 2016 Kane Prize Anthology. You can actually get it from there. And this brief story is about a young couple, and she comes from an affluential family, and he doesn't. And it's depicted in Zambia. So she has an affair, things don't go right, and she's so confused, and it's all the dynamics of perception, a woman's role, a man's role, and what is expected in their societies, and what you don't talk about. And the issues that go on in the affluential families in Africa. I don't want to say Europe or America or whatever. You may find that it's probably there. I don't know, but here we go. She wished she could have turned the clock and undo the affair. Having an affair was normal around her people. She knew her father had them. Their pastor at the church had them. Their neighbor whose husband traveled a lot had them. She never really knew why, until no one wanted to listen to her when she started having wedding jitters. Her maid of honor, Selina, her childhood friend, didn't hear her. Selina heard her mention something about the stress of choosing bridesmaid dresses. Selina's response, a hug. Selina then promised she would sit the girls down, and she was sure that they would compromise. She tried to bring it up to her mother several times. Like that time when she finally caught her mother alone in the wedding hall. She was waiting for the florist. Mom? Yes, darling. What was it like when you were getting married? What do you mean, my love? I mean, were you nervous? Anxious, maybe? Oh, God, yes. I was terrified. But how do you know that Dad was the right one for you? I always knew your father was the one. I knew because... Her mother's thoughts were then interrupted by the florist's entrance. What's this? Your flowers, madam. No, they're not. I ordered lavenders. Her mother raged. She threw her arms up in the air and began to cry. Why? My daughter's wedding is ruined. Was her mother really crying? Yes, she was. When we stepped back and watched, the wedding planner sprinted in. He calmly convinced her mother that it was a beautiful accident to have luscious plum flowers and not lavender. She had then thought about talking to her father. When she did, he realized it was a big mistake. He was not objective. He was more concerned about how he was going to introduce his future son-in-law to a son of the help, to his elite friends. She switched the towel from her lip to her upper cheek and then flinched. It's done. Why did she do it? What a stupid question. She knew exactly why she did it. The stress of the wedding was too much. The first time she had sex with her lover, it was 3 weeks before the wedding. It was in her parents' house in the guest bathroom. It had always been the favorite secret hiding place for everything. She removed the towel and looked at the swelling on her face and was glad to see that there was some improvement. She went back to the bedroom and sat on the dressing table. She caught her husband's reflection in the mirror. He was still sitting at the same spot as before. She was afraid to think of what was going through his mind. No, his heart. He started crying quietly and got up without saying a word. As he left the honeymoon suite, she called out to him, "Where are you going?" He didn't answer. Where was he going? Has he left her? In a panic, she rummaged through her handbag for her phone and was taken aback with a sudden, "Hello?" came from the other line just after 2 rings. She had hoped it would ring longer. She hadn't rehearsed or structured her thoughts properly yet. When she finally found her voice, it was a little voice that she hadn't heard in a long time. "Mommy, I think Tamani has left me." "What are you talking about? Did you have an argument?" "Yes." "What happened?" "Oh, Mommy, it's all my fault," she cried. "What happened?" "I was with Richard. I had been with Richard for the past few weeks." "What?" "But I went to tell him it was all over. The night before the wedding, I went to see him. I told him it was over. He didn't want to hear it. Next thing I knew, Richard called me
called me this morning and said that he was here in Zanzibar. He had taken the